hauling 4 or 5 containers today. Next week, she probably hauls 2 or 3. The dock workers are no longer going to see overtime and double shifts. They're going to probably work less than a traditional work week, starting right off the bat.
America was once seen as the shining city on a hill, a global symbol of democracy, liberty, and unmatched power. But today, that image is crumbling. Many around the world no longer see the United States as a leader worth following. Some would say this fall from grace began with Trump, but the truth might be far more complicated and much more uncomfortable. What if the decline of America's reputation isn't just about one man? What if it's about the system, the culture, and the contradictions that have been simmering for decades? Let's talk about how America, the so-called land of the free, has increasingly become a symbol of division, dysfunction, and denial.
Largest container gateway in the United States. So whatever happens here is going to be a reflection on what happens to the country. So what is happening now, after Long Beach being the #1 port in containerized cargo for the first quarter of 2025, we are looking to a 35 or even a 40% reduction. This week, ordinarily we would have expected 17 vessel calls. Right now, the number looks like 3. So it's more than a 50% reduction. You've seen the impact on Wall Street the last several weeks.
In recent years, the U.S. has faced an identity crisis that's being broadcast to the entire world. Allies are distancing themselves, enemies are emboldened, and millions of global citizens are openly questioning if America still represents the ideals it once preached. And this isn't just about politics, it's about values, credibility, and the way the rest of the world sees us. Many people point fingers at Donald Trump as the turning point, the man who turned America into a global punchline. But let's not forget Trump was elected by millions. Twice. His rise was no accident. He tapped into deep grievances, real or perceived, that had been ignored by both political parties for years. He exposed the raw nerve of American society, a society divided by class, race, geography, and ideology. He didn't create the chaos. He simply capitalized on it. When foreign leaders mock U.S. politics at international summits, or when countries like China and Russia openly challenge America's moral authority, it's not just about Trump. It's about the system that allowed someone like him to rise to power, and the fact that a large portion of the population still believes he represents their best chance at change.
The President of the United States, who was going to be in the room, Kristen, and as he told you over the weekend, and as he just said in the Oval Office just a little bit earlier this afternoon, he does not believe and does not want the U.S. to drop its 145% tariff on China, as China has demanded as part of their negotiation.
Look, it looks as if that 10% baseline tariff at this stage between the US and UK will stay, but there has been some details agreed. So Trump's agreed to cut much higher tariffs.
And the global perception reflects that. A study by Pew Research showed that confidence in U.S. leadership plummeted in countries like Germany, France, and the UK. Even longtime allies began questioning whether America was still capable of leading the free world. Some called it a temporary blip, but is it really? Because here's the uncomfortable part. Even after Trump left office, many of the issues that damaged America's image remained. Mass shootings, police brutality, political gridlock. The widening gap between rich and poor, a broken healthcare system, rampant misinformation, and a media landscape that thrives on outrage instead of facts. These aren't isolated problems, they are systemic. And then there's the hypocrisy. How can the U.S. claim to promote democracy abroad when its own elections are marred by voter suppression, gerrymandering, and partisan interference? How can it champion human rights when it still locks children in detention centers or allows billionaires to fund disinformation campaigns that tear the nation apart? The world is watching, and it's not buying the PR anymore. Even America's response to global crises has raised eyebrows. The chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan didn't just cost lives, it cost trust. The war in Iraq, sold under false pretenses, remains a stain on U.S. credibility. And when the U.S. lectures others on international law while violating it through drone strikes and surveillance, it sends a clear message. Rules are for others, not us. But let's zoom out even more. America's problems didn't start in 2016. Go back to the financial crisis of 2008. While millions of Americans lost their homes, jobs, and savings, not a single major Wall Street executive went to jail. That shattered trust not just domestically, but globally. It revealed a system where the powerful protect their own, while the average citizen is left to suffer. Fast forward to today, and you still see that inequality baked into every aspect of society. Look at the healthcare system. The U.S. spends more per capita on healthcare than any other country, yet has worse outcomes. People go bankrupt because they get sick. Meanwhile, pharmaceutical companies rake in billions. That's not just immoral, it's inefficient. And to the outside world, it looks absurd. Then there's education. In many developed nations, college is free or extremely affordable. In America, students are drowning in debt before they even start their careers. That debt crisis has reached $1.7 trillion, And what does the government do? Bail out banks, not students. What message does that send to the world? And let's not forget the gun violence epidemic. No other developed nation has normalized mass shootings the way the US has. Schools now have active shooter drills. Children write wills before attending class. And instead of enacting strict gun laws, politicians send thoughts and prayers. The rest of the world sees this and asks, what is wrong with this country? Now let's talk about the media and the internet. The United States was once proud of its free press, but now media outlets function more like partisan echo chambers. Algorithms reward outrage, not truth. Conspiracy theories spread faster than facts. Influencers with no qualifications shape public opinion more than experts. And this isn't just a cultural shift, it's a threat to democracy. When truth becomes subjective, power becomes unchecked. All of this has created an environment where people no longer agree on basic facts. One side calls it patriotism, the other calls it fascism. One side says freedom, the other says insurrection. And while this ideological war rages on, infrastructure crumbles, schools suffer, and mental health deteriorates. And if you think this dysfunction is just domestic, think again. America's international behavior continues to raise questions. Consider its relationship with Israel, especially during conflicts in Gaza. The US continues to send billions in aid, even as global condemnation grows over civilian casualties. Whether you agree or not, it's undeniable that this impacts how the world sees America's moral compass. Meanwhile, in places like Europe and Asia, countries are advancing: high-speed rail, renewable energy, universal healthcare, data privacy protections. America, by contrast, seems stuck arguing over whether climate change is real, whether evolution should be taught in schools, or whether books should be banned. That's not leadership, that's regression. And the worst part, there's an entire political faction that celebrates this decline, that wears it like a badge of honor. They want to tear down the institutions, the alliances, the norms, not to rebuild them, but to destroy what they see as a corrupt elite. And while some of their grievances may be valid, the methods are reckless. Because when you destroy trust in government, in media, in elections, you're not empowering the people, you're creating chaos. There was a time when American soft power was unmatched. Hollywood, tech, fashion, music, democracy, all exported across the globe. People wanted to study in the US, work in the US, live in the US. But now surveys show that fewer international students are applying. Tech workers are choosing Europe or Canada. Tourists are staying away. It's not a boycott, it's a loss of respect. And the irony. Many Americans don't even realize this. They're told they live in the greatest country on earth, and any criticism is labeled unpatriotic. But real patriotism means holding your country to a higher standard. It means asking the hard questions, not silencing them. So what's the solution? Can America recover its reputation? That depends. It requires more than electing the right leaders. It requires cultural change, policy change, a willingness to confront hard truths. It means prioritizing facts over feelings, people over profits, future over nostalgia. It means investing in education, healthcare, infrastructure, and most importantly, in trust. And yet that may be the hardest thing to rebuild, trust. Once it's lost, especially on the global stage, it takes generations to regain, and time is running out. Other countries are stepping up. New alliances are forming. Multipolarity is the future. America can either adapt or fade into the background, but that choice isn't up to a single president or a single party, it's up to the people. Because in a democracy, power rests with the public. And if the public is divided, misinformed, or apathetic, then so too will be the country they govern. So now it's your turn. Do you think America's global reputation is permanently damaged? Can it still lead, or has it already lost its moral high ground? Is this just a rough chapter in a long history or the start of something darker? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's get the conversation going. Not just among Americans, but among citizens around the world. Because whether we like it or not, what happens in the US still echoes globally, at least for now. And remember, this video presents opinions and perspectives that are part of ongoing public discourse.